Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. This show is brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family restraint. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family restraint, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
Don't you worry. They say there's nothing to heredity anyway.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my wife Nancy and my co-host Frank Bradley. What's going on, guys?
Hello, all.
Made it another week, huh?
Another way. You know, I was just looking, guys. This is episode 129. We're that close to 150. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I was talking to Nancy about that. I think today that we're hitting 130 with the live show, and we're almost to 200 on the podcast.
That's
so
crazy.
We've done over 300 episodes altogether.
It's went fast. It's went fast.
I'm not even counting all the members videos we do, all the master's class videos we've done. all the Q&As we've done for the members. I mean, it might be up there near, I have to count them someday.
I'd say 500. Close.
No.
Have you had ever one of them? All the videos? All of them?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We've done a lot, I guess.
That's a lot. I'm not talking about just the videos we've done. I'm talking about the videos, podcasts, and everything. So
you're up there. Yeah, it's up there. So yeah, we've done a lot of stuff. That's not even counting all the guest appearances I've done on other shows too. So what do you think, man?
Doesn't seem that long.
No, it doesn't. Matter of fact, okay, Frank, Nancy and I were talking about this today. How long ago did we start this show?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. That's what
Has it really? Oh gosh.
4 years. Yeah, I got it written. Actually, I've got it written down to where I can remember when we started it, the first episode. But now I want those. And plus, it comes up on memories on Facebook too, so that keeps me informed. But the thing about it is, the first maybe 8 or 10, those can just go away forever, as far as I'm concerned. I never want to watch those things again. The ones we first started.
I don't blame you at all. Matter of fact, I did just that because I was curious, because I saw a new show, and I'm not trying to criticize them, but it's a new show, and they were rough, and I was like, I know that feeling. Our first few shows were terrible. Okay. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe they'll get in their stride. They'll kind of get into it and do better and change things and improve things as they go, because they were really raw. And so I went and I watched our first show, which was awful, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we've gotten 100 times better. Okay. And I actually listened to the one Nancy and I did for the First Bread to Perfection podcast, not the live, but for the podcast. Yeah. And matter of fact, I listened to a few of them, and Nancy was great. Nancy sounded great. She was comfortable. She had all kinds of energy, a lot of personality. And I sounded like I was sound asleep, like nothing like we are now, So
I do remember that. I do remember that. And you were so nervous. I'm used to talking to people, so it's no big deal to me. Yeah,
I don't know if I was nervous exactly. I just didn't know how. I mean, I've stood in front of people and I've done seminars. I was comfortable with that. But to sit in front of a microphone and kind of act like you're into it, and try to remember everything you got to say. And then Nancy's distracting you as you go. I'm going to blame a lot of this on Nancy. Okay. And it was tough. Nancy, like I said, was very comfortable with the whole thing. And I was just struggling with it. And I would say the first 10 or so episodes of the actual podcast were awful. So bad. I want to go back and redo all those because they're great outlines, they're great information. So I so badly want to, every time I tell someone I'm going to take those off there, no, leave it on. It shows you where you came from. I go, okay, well, just don't start there, start from the end and work your way down. Maybe you'll lose interest by the time you get to those.
Okay. That was me. As far as you saying you used to talk in front of people, at work, I was used to having meetings, getting up, talk in front of, 40, 50 people. Didn't have no problem with it. I'd done it so much. It was just like breathing, taking a breath. But for some reason, when Kenny hit that record button and we went live, I fell apart. But we could do a recording on a masterclass video, and that's fine. But on the live shows, that's where I had the problem. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know.
I know you say that all the time, and I think you did good. I think you sounded fine. What I will say is you're a lot different than you were then. You're a lot more comfortable, a lot more relaxed. But I actually think you did better than me on the first few shows, for sure.
If you say.
I thought you did.
I don't know.
I'll agree with Kenny. I'll totally agree with Kenny. But for all of you people out there in public land, not our membership fellas and gals, go back and listen to those beginning shows because there's a lot of good nuggets in the beginning that we in our later years, like we've been on 20 years, we've kind of shut up and like, nope, if you want to know that information, you got to join the Breeders Academy and we'll teach it to you in the back end. And Kenny may disagree with me, but I feel like we had put out a lot of good shows on a lot of good subject
I would,
matters back then.
but I actually took those off.
Oh, you
Not
did.
anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
We did give
The information was good.
Yeah,
Okay,
It
so
was
where
the
is it?
deliverance that was bad.
it's in my computer.
Seriously?
Locked up.
You really took it all off?
Oh, I took a few of them off. Yeah,
I begged him to, Nancy. I begged him to.
with too much information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were a little, how should I say this, Kenny? We was a little of immature on how to deliver certain topics. And we give out too much of the topic, I guess you could say. So
Well, I'm mostly
we had to
talking about
retract some of it.
I'm mostly talking about the ones that Nancy and I did in the beginning.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Now,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you guys did.
as far as our
You gave
live
out a lot.
go, I did take off the first 30 or so. They're not available anymore.
Because some of those, you could use those for masterclass videos, actually, some of them.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of. Some of the information in them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
'Cause
yeah,
I remember that. I was like, did they say what I thought they said?
well, it's funny. I got a message from a new member. Matter of fact, I want to welcome all the new members. We've gotten a lot of new members the last couple weeks, and I'm really appreciating it. I do want to tell you guys, make sure you begin with the Start Here pages. There's a lot of information in there. Don't try to absorb it all at one time. If you need help, let me know. But there's a lot of great, a lot of good programs, courses. Get to start with the Start Here pages, work your way through, and then use the website as a reference from then. Then go and check out all the Masters class videos, all the members roundtables, check out the Founders program. And then once you get used to the website and work your way around it, kind of get an idea how it all works, where everything's at. And then if you have any questions, start writing them down, and then we'll get together and we'll do, if we need a coaching call, we can do a coaching call. I do like to wait till you're in the website for a little while, because I know you're going to have a lot of questions, and it'd be good just to do it all at one time. But, I was going to say, is one of the new members, it was so funny. I'm not going to say the whole thing. I'm just going to paraphrase what he said, is that he really appreciated that we kind of gave him a push. I think he was holding back. He kind of mentioned how he was trying to re-engineer the website, trying to figure things out before he got in there. So he's kind of holding back. And then he finally got in, and he's glad he did, because when he got in there and looked around, he's like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever, kind of thing. And I told Nancy, it's funny how so many people hold off thinking that they can figure it all out just from our shows and try to re-engineer something. And then the revelation that they get when they finally go on the website. So yeah, he was thanking us for doing that.
Yeah, there's no comparison.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that try to do that and have said, I just couldn't figure it out. I had to join. And then when they join, they go, oh, okay, I get it now. It's really good.
See what we did. We give really good information from our shows. Obviously, we're not giving them what we call the secret. And, but what was I going to say?
Secrets.
Yeah, the secrets. But, oh God, what was I going to say? What did I tell you, Nancy?
I don't remember.
Okay. And this is a good thing, is I think people hold back because they don't want to spend the money. But when they get in there, not only are they surprised, but you can tell that we exceed their expectations. The website's bigger and better than I think they thought it was going to be.
I spend more money than that on an unscheduled visit to Tractor Supply. I spend 3 times that, So, I mean, that's nothing. Well, let me tell you something. When you're in chickens, the first tolerance, somebody said, how do I know if I make a good breeder or not? Is there ways to tell? I said, yep. Take a couple $100 bills out of your pocket, set it on fire, and if you don't sit there and cry, you're good to go. Well, as far as chickens,
how we used to say that the website's cheaper than a bag or two of feed or a trip for a family of 4 to go eat at McDonald's or something. Well, the prices have rise so much with feed and fast food that now it's cheaper than a family of 2.
It is
cheaper than 1 bag of feed. So,
well, 2 bags anyway, because that's what I was getting ready to say. I can go just buy 2 bags of non-essential grains. I'm not talking pellets. I'm talking about wheat, barley, something like that. And right there's your membership fee right there, 2 bags of grain, basically.
And the money we're going to save you, because trust me, when you go through the defects course and the confirmation course and some of the selection courses, what you're going to learn from that is you're going to go through your backyard, and trust me, you're going to cull some of those birds. That's going to save you money right there, because you don't need to raise. I would guarantee that most of the birds you're raising, you're wasting money on feed. And then we can help you weed them down to the best ones so that you can start your strain.
Well, it's funny that you guys are talking about this, because Santiam Valley Garage Life was in the chat room, and he was talking. He said, whenever I get asked what's the best way to get into these birds, whether it's domestic or gamefowl, he says the first thing you do is get your yard ready and your environment ready. And then I said, absolutely. Then you join the Breeders Academy so that you can learn to breed your chickens the right way.
Yeah, I had one today. He joined, and he was talking back and forth, and I was getting him, fixed up to where you could go in and join. And he said, I wanted to become a member and spend some time inside the Breeders Academy, even before I went and got my chickens. And I said, man, that's the best thing that you could actually done, because this way it prepares you to when you do go by. And then after you get them, it prepares you to, do what needs to be done with them. So I thought that was a great idea, him doing that before you even got the first cage, first chicken, or anything.
Yeah. I saw that conversation actually. Okay. I wrote it down. I want to make sure I cover this right. As you know, we've done a recording, quite a few, a lot of information with Brian Reeder on poultry genetics, color genetics, breeding and improving the plumage color. A lot of things. We covered a lot of things. And so right now I'm working on the whole series. It's going to turn out to be multiple episodes. I plan to let it out because I don't want my members waiting too long, and there's just so much information and there's so many things I want to do with it. I don't want you waiting. So what I plan on doing is I'm going to let it out as I finish things at their different levels, I guess you could say, is I'm going to let it out piece by piece as I'm working on it. The members versions will be first. I'm going to start with the interview him and I did, which was a 5-hour talk. It was basically a phone conversation, and we covered so many topics. It wasn't meant to be a structured talk. It was just meant to be for him and I to kind of get to know each other, figure out what we wanted to talk about, how we wanted to cover it. And we ended up talking about a lot of things. And it was such good information that with his permission, I talked to him. I said, is there any way that I could go ahead and edit it, cleaned it up? I took the 5-hour talk, I edited it down to about 2.5 hours. Can I use it? And he said, absolutely. So that's what I've been doing right now. And I'll be making that whole talk available to my members soon. I almost got it edited, which is the first edit. And then that's going to be audio. And like I said, that's going to be for the members only. And then what I'm going to do, because we did cover so many different topics in that conversation, is I'm going to split those topics into separate episodes. And again, those will be audios, and we're going to have different versions. We're going to have a members version, and then we're going to have the public version. So the public's going to get a different version than the members. The members are basically going to get the whole thing. And then I may turn that one into a video once I get it done. And this will all be on the website for the members. Once I get it done, make it into a video, because we talked about a lot of things. And I think that if I pull it up on the screen as we're talking about it, you'll have a better understanding of what we talked about. So we'll do that. And then the second interview we did, it was Brian Reeder, Nancy, and myself. Nancy was like 8 hours. Nancy,
we're not talking about him yet.
Here.
Oops.
You already had that.
Right. Yeah, okay. That's right. I was looking at the chat, and then you said the second thing, and I'm like, okay, wait.
We're
not talking about that yet.
The second interview was 8 hours long. It was Brian Reeder, Nancy, and myself. And that was a structured talk. We knew exactly what we wanted to talk about. We knew what we wanted to cover. That's going to be 4 separate episodes. And those are going to be for the members only. Now, the final episode, the fourth one, that might be edited down so that some of that will be available to the public. But the first 3 episodes just going to be for the members. It will be released first as audio, and that will be on the website for the members. And then we'll be turning those audios definitely into illustrated videos, because as he was talking to us, he was bringing up photos for us. He was providing the photos as he was talking, and he was basically talking about those photos, or using those photos to help describe what he was talking about. This is really good information. I can't wait to get it all done. And then we're going to create a number of programs with this information. And I might even pull out segments from those and make separate episodes for those too. And some will be for the members, some will be for the public. And like I said, we'll be posting all this at different stages. So I don't want my members waiting, but I want to get it to them as fast as I can, but know that I'm going to keep on improving on it. It's going to start out as audio. It's going to turn into a video. There's going to start out as members versions. And then I'm going to pull off things for the public. So there'll be some things for the public as I finish them. So I just don't want you to wait too long. And then once I get those done, I'm going to finish the standard for the American game on the website. And not only finish the standard, but I'm going to incorporate a lot of the information Brian provided us for the standard, so that not only you understand what the birds should look like, but how to breed them better too. Okay. And and then Brian's going to be coming on again. I was just talking to him, I think, I talked to him yesterday, and I talked to him a little bit this morning, and he's going to be coming on to do other topics too. So we're going to go real deep into hybridization and domestication. We're going to be going really deep into the origins of the domestic chickens, which is going to include gamefowl. And then there's some things about genetics we're going to cover. And one of them I think you wanted to do a whole show on was autosomal pheomelanin. Okay. And so I just want to make sure I get these all done before I move on, because this is just really good information. And then Frank and I will continue after that with the rest of the Founders Program, which we only have a couple things to do, really. We have a couple more videos to do, and then we'll tackle other topics. But I do want to get this done and get it on the website for the members.
Hey, Kenny, I just want to say something really quick. Guys, if you haven't already, there's both of his books that he's written. They're both really good books. I suggest you go on Amazon and pick those up as soon as possible. Really good reads, very easy to understand. So there you go.
Okay. So, yeah, and I agree, because especially for my members who are going to be seeing the whole thing, using these books, let's say you're watching the videos and you're learning, I think the books are going to be a great companion to the videos we did, even to the audios we did, because we basically used his books as the outline, so that would be a good thing to do. Okay. Another thing, Nancy, the other one.
Yep. Here we go.
Now, I was talking to Rick Coase. He's been on the show with us. As a matter of fact, he did an episode. He did a live episode, which I edited down to the podcast as well. So I think the episode for the live show would be episode 71, and the podcast is 136. And we talked about how evolution and, basically how the mechanisms of evolution are very they're very similar to what we see with selective breeding, and how we can use the mechanisms of evolution to improve our breeding practices. So he came on and he talked to us about evolution, and go ahead and pull that off, Nancy. I don't know why I can't talk with that thing just on all the time. It takes away my concentration. And so what he did, and I love everything about this guy and what he does, and I can't wait to have him on the show. He's agreed to come on. I just got to finish up the outline that I've started, send it to him, see what he thinks, and get him back on, because I had so many people say how much they enjoyed that, which really helped, because I really, my members understand it, and I want the new members to understand that too, that evolution plays a big role in what we do. And everything, if you look at the Founders Program, and you look at the mechanisms of evolution, you can see why we teach it the way we do, and show why it's so important. Okay, because I I just don't think the Founders Program would be where it is if it wasn't for what I understand and what I learned about evolution. Like we always talk about, Frank, is we want to stay as close to Mother Nature as possible. And this is one of the ways we do it, But let me say this and then we'll move on. Is he started obviously he has this podcast, and that's what I follow mostly. But now he's doing a YouTube channel, and it's actually different than the podcast. It's they're whole different shows. They're new shows. So if you have any interest in this, which I hope you do, go to his YouTube channel, Evolution Talk, subscribe, start watching the videos. I think you're going to learn a lot. It's going to help you understand breeding even more. And if you're following me and you're following our shows and following the Breeders' Academy, you're going to understand why. You're going to be able to connect the dots. Okay. So he also, what he did, and I joined, I'm supporting him too, is he has a Patreon page. And I encourage you, if you like the videos, to join his Patreon page. You're going to get a whole lot more information. It's going to be really good information. And I like to do everything I can to support Rick and what he does, because I think what he does is really important. And I hope he sticks around for a long time, because I just love the way, not only the way he covers evolution, but how he does it. And it's entertaining and it's fun to listen to. He just does a really good job. So if you can, or give it a chance, go check it out. He just started it. It's very new. I don't know how often he's going to do it, but I would assume he's going to do it once a week. Check out the videos. If you like what he does, check out his podcasts. He also has a book. We promoted the book as well. Check out that. He also has an audio book as well. It's really good information. You're going to see how it relates to what we do too. And then again, hopefully you'll support him. Join his Patreon page so he can continue to do what he's doing. Yeah.
Okay. And Kenny, aren't you going to be on somebody's show tomorrow?
Yeah. Joe was on our show last week. Joe Church. You going to go ahead and put the banner up real quick?
Yeah, I will. Keep talking.
Okay. Nancy, you got to be more predictable than that for me. Okay. So he's going to be, I've been on his show twice. He came on our show. I thought he was filling in for Frank because I didn't think Frank was going to make it. But Frank did. I'm glad he did, because we talked about how close chicken breeding is to dog breeding. And I don't really know that much about dog breeding. I have a number of members, dog breeders, in my Breeders' Academy. And they're finding the information we provide, even though it's for chickens, they're finding that the information we provide in the Breeders' Academy is working out for them too. They're able to use a lot of that information. So we're really changing the way the dog breeders are thinking about breeding. I built the website for chicken breeders. I'm a gamefowl breeder. Obviously it's for any chicken, but we've got all kinds of different animal breeders in there. I didn't plan on it, but it's working out really good. They love it. The information's working out for them. So anyways, I'm going to be on Joe's show tomorrow, 6:00 Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be talking about what kind of breeders are you? And this is going to be, I know it's a dog show. I'm a chicken breeder. I think the information you're going to learn from this talk is going to help anyone who breeds, and I plan on being on this show. I don't, numerous times a year. So am I leaving
the same thing that we talk about on this show every Friday night, on the live show, the same thing that's going on within gamefowl breeding or chicken breeding is going on the same exact way in the dog world. The good breeders breed a certain way and close, and the others are just making mongrels. And it's pretty much the same thing. We discuss everything. They've got more in common with us than we ever know as far as dog breeding, chicken breeding. It's pretty much the same, to the fact to where even the old wives' tales and superstitions are the same, So it's really crazy how close related they are. Which some of the breeding is a little bit different, but the thought of the breeding is all the same between the two.
Now, the Breeders' Academy it was designed for chickens. Okay. But if you look at all the dead man books when it comes to breeding, whether it's cattle breeding, pig breeding, now I'm learning from dog breeding, is it, like Frank said, for the most part, it's the same. We have to adjust a couple things because you can't inbreed too much. But yeah, I think if they followed it I think they'd get a better result than what they're getting. And I think everybody likes what we say. Even the dog breeders who are following our show, they like what we say. The only problem they have is they still feel that you need to add outside blood. And we show in the Founders Program why that's not so. And there's a way to get around that. And there's some safeguards that come into play in the Founders Program that prevent inbreeding depression. And it applies to chickens, it applies to gamefowl, it applies to dogs, cattle, pigs, you name it. Okay. You just got to trust the process. And so that's a hard one for some dog breeders because they've been doing it so long. Like Frank said, there are just some things that they're afraid to do. But I think if they trust the process, they'd be fine.
But once again, Kenny mentions that the one thing that I see in common with that is the good dog breeders breed the way me and Kenny breed. And same in the game, the gamefowl world. The better breeders breed this way. Even the dog breeders. Joe said it himself right at the end of the show. I asked him the question between inbreeding, and he said the good ones do. So that shows you right there how important it is to do that. But like you said, Kenny, a lot of people just have a hysteria about it that they think, get back. Don't want nothing to do with that. But if they'd only give it a try, they would see. They would actually see.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a number of dog breeders, and they say they do it. They breed like we breed. They just don't tell anybody they do it because they'd be criticized and crucified for it. So, okay. So to all my members, what?
Hey, I wasn't, I was waiting for you guys to be quiet.
Okay.
So we're talking, it's tomorrow at 6:00 Standard Pacific time, and it's a live show.
Yeah, it's a live show. So come on, ask your questions. We're going to not only have a talk or have a lesson to teach, but we're going to answer questions too.
And that's going to be on Joe's NWA Cane Corsos.
This is what it looks like. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh, we canceled each other out. Okay. Yes. So can you see that? That's what it's going to look like, guys. So make sure that you show up and support both of these guys because they're really fabulous breeders and have a wealth of knowledge for you. Okay. Yep. Moving on to the members roundtable. What do we got there?
Okay. So for my members, when we're done here, we're going to be going into the back end on the website. We're going to be talking with our members. We're going to be doing the members roundtable, and we're going to be talking about the consequences of genetic contamination. I think this is going to be a really good talk. We're going to cover, I don't want to say too much about it, but we're going to be covering all kinds of things when it comes to genetic contamination, environmental contamination, health contamination, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's going to be a good talk. So make sure, for my members, make sure to meet us there after this show. For the, just so you know, too, the Breeders' Academy is open for new enrollment. So make sure you join in. If you join right now, you can actually get in for the members roundtable and join us right away. Once you join, you get instant access to the website. There, you're going to get the members roundtable. You're going to get the Masters Class video series, the Founders Program, which I think is the best breeding program out there. You're going to get all the programs and courses that support the Founders Program and a whole bunch more. And you're going to get a lot of members resources, data articles, and we're always adding new content. We're always adding new videos. We're always adding to the Masters Class videos. We're always adding new programs. So, and right now is a good time to join. We did drop the annual down $100. It's a $200 savings from the monthly membership. So right now it's $395. I'd take advantage of it if I were you before we stop it. Normally we would open up the website for a while, then we would close it for a while. If things keep going the way they're going, we might be doing that again. So join before it ends. Even if you're not going to be a member, make sure you join the Breeders Bulletin. There you're going to get free articles, free tips on breeding, free bonus material, which includes the ebooks on breeding. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com to subscribe. Okay, on with the show, finally. All right. All right, guys. I knew this was going to be a little heavy in promotions today. I just had a lot to talk about that I wanted to make sure I got out because we have so many different plans, so many different projects going on inside the Breeders' Academy. And I wanted to let the members know what was going on. And like I said, we're got a lot of shows coming up, and we'll be working with Joe with his dog breeders. Frank, today we're going to be talking about creating a healthy environment for your fowl.
Very important. That's one leg of that stool.
Yeah. So we're going to help you create a sound environment, which I think is a prerequisite for a successful breeding program. Okay. So we'll just work our way through the outline and hopefully give you some information you guys didn't think of. Maybe improve the way you run your farm, the way you take care of your chickens and all that. So let's start with building proof. Building proof. I can't even say the word. I'm going to get this out.
Yeah, are you?
Okay. Building brood pens that are safe and secure, Frank.
Yeah. How secure is secure? Some people, you're not going to have a lot of problem, but if you're in the country like me, even the insects eat chickens. So you got to have well-built pens. But I tell you, I learned a lesson today talking about pens. I bought a bunch of those fold-up 39 by 39 by 39 pens with the doors on them. I'm never buying another one. I've already lost two birds from them, and I'm not using them anymore. The wells break loose on them. The wells don't hold up on them, and the chicken, even that, you get a lot of them that will run their head through the wire where the checks are so big, and I've had to go around with that plastic chicken wire around it just to keep them from sticking their heads out. So I think I'm done with 39 with 39 pins. I don't think I'm going to fool with them anymore.
Hey, Frank, is your tablet or your iPad on the Wi-Fi or nothing?
I've double checked them 3 times. It done that earlier when you was doing advertisements, and I double checked it. And they're off. Weird. I don't know what the deal is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny, can I say this, that even if you haven't seen any predators in your yard, all of a sudden you have chickens, you're, safe bet, you're going to start seeing animals in your yard that you didn't see before. So just be aware of that, protect them against that.
Maybe before they used to pass on through, but now you've got food and they're going to stick around. They're going to go, whoa, wow, there's chickens here. I think I'm going to stick around over here, So yeah.
The biggest problem I've seen to bring them in that way, though, is people will cull birds and leave them on the property overnight or leave them laying out. That's the worst thing you can do. If you have a chicken that you cull or it passes away, you remove it from that property, because I promise you there's millions of noses going to smell that dead chicken, and they're going to come looking for a chicken dinner.
What's funny, though, is some animals, like possums, they are opportunists. If you leave them a hole big enough for them to get into, they're going to get in there, okay? But they don't work that hard to actually get into the pens unless you leave them basically a door or a hole big enough for them to get in. Skunks, Frank was here when him and I were walking in the yard one night, and we were just talking and walked over to a pen, and sure as shit, there was a skunk right in the middle of the pen eating out of the feed pan or something. Oh no, he was eating egg. Frank started backing up like he was going to get sprayed. Going, what are you doing? Because you really have to bug mine. You got to really, instigate a fight with them for them to spray you.
Not in Kentucky. If you're within seeing distance, they'll let you have it. Because Kenny went forward, and I started backing up, and I was like, "What's he doing? He's going to get targeted, He's like, "Oh, they won't bother you." And I was like, "Okay,
You have to startle them pretty good or threaten them. Okay,
that's pretty friendly."
And so I told Frank, "Wait, watch." And if you look at chain link, it's probably a hole about that big. Okay, and he walked right through it.
No problem.
So you can't really keep skunks out, but I like to keep the eggs high. So all my nest boxes are about eye level. And then my roost poles go right across. Okay. At the same level. And
I keep them out.
Yeah.
My dog.
Yeah.
One comes in, you're going to smell skunk for a long time.
Yeah. So I had to change my pens a little bit to prevent the skunk from getting the eggs. That was a big thing. I've never seen a skunk here kill a chicken. Now they might get baby chicks, but I've had my daughter's bannies beat up a skunk one time, chased them all the way out of the pen. But
raccoons, they'll eat them here.
Yeah. Raccoons are bad.
Raccoons and coyotes.
Yeah, coyotes too. So coyotes can be a real problem. Skunks and raccoons are probably the worst. But I secure the pens real well. I try to prevent any ways for them just to easily get in. Even the tops have the same chain link frames that are on the sides, because I don't want any chances of anything getting out or anything getting in. And what about the two-legged predators, Frank? Those
are just as bad. I've had that happen, actually. I had that happen, and I've got mine fenced in. All my birds are fenced in, and I've got a dog in with them. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have any chickens. Plus, I got security cameras that I can actually look at on my phone. If something gets in them, they start, making noise at night, I can actually go to my phone and pull up on the surveillance cameras and actually see what it is. And one thing the camera helps me with is I keep live traps out baited with eggs. Raccoons and possums, they can smell those eggs from a mile away, it seems. But an egg, it'll last before it actually blows up in hot weather. They'll last longer than cold, but they last forever. And the raccoons and the possums and skunks stuff, they love them. So I keep them baited up. But those cameras allow me to see if something's coming around at night. The ones I got identifies if it's a car, if it's a human, if it's an animal, whatever it is, tells me before I even look at it. And that way I know what I've got around my property that's nosing around. So that way I know better how to dispose of it coming around my place to what it is. Because, you've got to do skunks different than possums, different than coyotes or bobcats, if you're having problems with them. So each one I'm an expert on live trap catching animals over the years.
Frank, I was having a problem with coyotes. They were doing a number on me for a while there. And then Frank clued me in on those little strobe lights. Okay.
I love them.
And I started out with the red ones, but I was still having problems. I think some of the predators went away, but some didn't. And then I went and got the clear ones, and basically all my predator problems went away. Yeah. I haven't had that was like a couple of years ago, I think it was.
Yeah. It was 2 years ago.
To a predator since.
Yeah. Kenny, explain to him what you're talking about. It's like a strobe light that just blinks as soon as the sun goes down, and it actually is on a solar. So the electricity to run it comes from the sun, from the solar during the day.
Green light has a solar panel on the top. It charges itself during the day. As soon as the sun goes down, the lights come on, and you look at my backyard. I don't know, Frank, did you notice it when you were here? It looked like a landing strip.
Yeah.
Just like an airport. People come down and they said, what in the world have you got up there on that hill? Is it you got an airport or something up there? All those different strobes. But what I do with mine, they're easy. Just one little screw in them to mount them. About once a month, every couple months, I take it off and move it. But before that, I've just used the green Christmas lights, the multicolored Christmas lights that blinked. Of course, you got to have electricity for those, and I would just move them every once in a while. And owls, pretty much all the predators. Now, raccoons, possums didn't affect them as much, but the bobcats, coyotes, the smarter animals, they disappeared. They got going fast.
You told me that I needed to move those strobes every now and then. Mm-hmm. Since the day I got them, I have not moved them once, and they work.
That's good. That's good.
I know you told me that you need to change them up and move around a little bit. Chase was saying that he talked about putting like bricks around the bottom of the pen. And my dad, when we had chickens when I was a kid, he put those white blocks. What do they call them? They're like
cinder blocks.
Yeah, I was going to say that. He would put those all the way around, halfway in the dirt, and then lay the pen on top, or put the pen on top of that. And that pretty much took care of the coyotes and all that. And I keep meaning to do that here. It's something I've always wanted to do. I just kept putting it off. But someday I do want to do that, where you line those blocks all the way around, put the dog, I use, what do you call them? Dog kennels, like chain link fence dog kennels. Put it on top of that, put a decent roof on it, like a corrugated roof, and I should be good to go. That
makes them last longer too.
Yeah.
The kennels like you've got, Kenny, if you set them up on top of those blocks, if that kennel is sitting down on the dirt, they'll rot out in no time, especially here where it's real damp. Not as much for out west for Kenny and Nancy, But here, where we get so much rain and it gets so cold, they get water down in them. I bought a brand new one and went out and checked it there the other day. And the last cold spell we had, it got down like 15 degrees below. Water had got down in the door frame and had froze and had split it all the way down. The one pipe beside the door, it split it all the way to the ground. So it destroyed it. Yeah.
You want to protect them from the weather. So you want to keep everything dry. You want to keep it from the rain. If you have chicken houses, you want to prevent the drafts. You want to make sure you give them a mixture of shade and sun, never full sun. If it gets hot, especially with like chickens, like my black pearls, if they got direct sun, they would kill them pretty much right away. Okay. And you want to, like, I've seen so many people ruin chickens by having the roost too low. So what happens is, and this is what happened to me for a while there, was the roost was so low, the rooster would lay his tail over to prevent it from hitting the roost, and then his tail would stay there. And then I couldn't tell whether I was dealing with rye tail or not. So that was an issue. And then if they're too high, a lot of times when the chickens, like roosters, when they get older, as they get older, it's like they're jumping up and down on the roost, but they're not using their wings as much as they used to soften the blow. And so they would land harder, and then you get bumblefoot, start getting infection, gangrene, start losing them. So the placement of the roost is really important, especially when you're dealing with the different ages. The older they get, the lower you want to be, but you want them high enough so that they're not rubbing their tail on it.
Yeah. And you want the roost poles up high enough to where they can actually use their wings to kind of slow them down before they hit. I've seen a lot of people went to one guy's farm. He had just about every one of his chickens had bumblefoot on one foot or the other, and some both. And what he done, he had the roost mid to where the chicken was just, he couldn't use his wings, so he was just jumping down. And you could hear those chickens when they jump off the roost. You could hear that slap, when it hit the ground. So we lowered some of them and then raised the others up a little bit to where they could actually slow themselves down, and his bumblefoot went away. But there's one spot you don't want them in to where they're just, jumping down flat on those feet. You can see the ground. It packs the ground hard where they're jumping down off the roost.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are being too vague for me. I need numbers. 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet. How high do you need the roost when they're like a year, 2 years old? And how low do you need the roost when they're like 4 or 5 years old?
Okay. You want it high enough to clear the tail, low enough that they're not flying to, they're not landing. So for me, depending on what you're going to use, like my roost poles are about, they're probably about 5 feet off the ground. And that seems to be good.
Yeah.
Now, if I've got a rooster I want to exercise a little more, then I might raise them up a little bit, but I want to make sure the litter is softer. Okay, not on hard ground. So the higher you go, the softer the litter needs to be.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Okay. And another thing I think you need to be careful of is the rocks inside your litter, because, if they hit just so, and they hit that rock and it splits their bottom of their pad open, then there you go, infection could ensue. So
any cut on the bottom of the foot, they get bacteria in it. It's a bumblefoot case every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as the litter, you want to keep it dry. You want to keep it free of molds and fungi. So if you're keeping it dry, you shouldn't have a whole lot of problem with that. I like a deep litter. What I do is I don't have them right now, but we used to have horses all the way around us, and they would throw their horse manure over the fence. I'd spread it out, let it dry real good, and then I would throw it in the pen. And then whenever we mowed the grass, we'd dump all the grass into the pen as well. And then they would work on that. And then I would just let the litter get high enough to a certain height, and then I would take out half of it, turn it over, whatever was left, I'd turn it over, rake it up, put the stuff into a compost pile. But you notice I didn't say clean. I think twice a year I'll go out there with a hose and I'll spray down the pens and get all the dust out and everything, but I never make the litter super clean, because I want my birds to be exposed to the microorganisms. I want them to be exposed to that. I want them to build immunity, some resistance to whatever their environment presents them. I don't want them to be fragile. I want them to be exposed to those things so they can build immunity towards them.
In other words, you don't want to run a hospital.
That's right. Yep. What was he saying, Nancy?
Chase has a cure for you. I can bring you a fresh 10x6 load dump trailer full of horse poo.
Man, I'd like to have
If you want it.
Now, here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. Horse manure is, to me, the very best litter that you can get. But here's the downfall of it. You have to have it where it is absolutely dry to where no water can get on it. Because when water gets on that horse manure, you talk about a smelly, nasty mess for your birds. It's terrible. But it's in a good dry facility. It's the best litter that you can get, hands down.
I was going to write an article one time. It was called Horse Poop in the Chicken Coop. You know, how to use horse poop properly and with the benefits of it. Because Tony used to, I was against it for a long time, but Tony kind of sold me on it because all the old horse racers raise gamecocks. And horses and chickens get along really well with each other. They live symbiotic in the same place. The chickens keep the horse manure loose so it doesn't get packed on the ground and build up. And the horses are terrible at digesting their food. So they're always passing things that the chickens like. So they really do work good with each other. Now, the only thing I would say is, and I know Chase I know Chase raised healthy horses, and I was fairly secure about the ones that were around me, but I am kind of leery about bringing horse manure where I can't see the horses because I don't know how healthy the horses are. I'm not going to bring bad litter on my yard, so I'm usually skeptical of that these days. If they had the horses here, I got to go look how they're taken care of. I understood the owner, the horses look healthy, then I would do it. You know, that kind of thing. I know Chase knows what he's doing. I don't know. So,
I've got a question here on roosts real quick before we continue on. Aren't roosts related to room? Like 5 feet off the ground, you need 5 feet in front.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
I mean, you got to go off your cage. Whatever your cage has got them in, you got to put that roost in a position to where it's either down on the ground to where they're not going to damage their feet, or if you can't get it high enough for them just dropping down, you need to put it low enough that it's not going to hurt them when they do jump off of it. Yeah, but you got to work for whatever cages you got, like those little 39 by 39s. Mm-hmm. I've got those set lower just where the bird can get under it. And with the litter, he's not hurting himself when he jumps down, or herself when they jump down on that litter.
I wonder go ahead.
The litter is what really helps you as far as to pad their foot, though. If you got the litter deep in there, they can handle just about any size roost. But like Kenny said, though, there's a comfortable medium there that they're going to have to, they need to slow themselves down before they get where they're going, or they just walk off the roost. So you need to either have it low or mid-level to where they, they're just not going to hurt their feet when they jump down.
But they have to be off the ground. And if you notice, I have some round pens out there I use as temporary pens. And if you notice them, is the roost that's in there is only 6 inches off the ground, just enough to keep them off the ground, so they can sleep at night without being on the ground. So I do that, and then I move them around. So I wonder if that's what he's talking about.
I took it as well. As far as the pen size, you'd have to adjust the roost to the far as the pen size. What I got from it.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I took it.
So here's one, Frank, that we see a lot is nobody ever has enough pens. They're always short of pens.
There goes the raise as many as you can manage and afford.
Yeah, but you're always short some pens. You always have just enough birds where you need like 1 or 2 more pens.
Here's the thing. That's true when you're first starting to get your family formed, and you're wanting the very best to start with. But after you get so far in the Founders Program, you're not having to breed as many to find those standouts, because there's a time that you get them to where all the birds you're getting very few culls. So that number goes down the more you form them and get them where they need to be at. But now in the first of it, it is a necessity to raise as many as you can. I know that sounds, but I had a guy ask me that, and he goes, if you're doing that out every year, you're killing a lot of chickens, you know? And I said, well, if you listen to us, we're saying in the beginning, you don't do that all the way through. You know, there's a certain point where you get to where all your birds should be coming looking good, you know, for a very small percentage. And then you're not having to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hatching, I agree with that. That the better the birds get, the less you have to hatch. It's easier to get the selection you need, but especially in the beginning, hatching a lot of chicks just gives you the power selection. Without having a lot of chicks, you're not going to have the number. It's all about the numbers. I say it all the time. You know, I had a number of breeds out there, and I was lucky if I hatched 1 or 2 clutches each breed. I just wasn't getting the selection I needed to improve on them. Okay. Which made me have to breed to a lot more of them than I should have. Okay. So if you have a good selection, you can cull really hard without feeling like culling all of them, get them down to the top percent. Out of the top 10%, you're pulling out the standouts. Those are the ones going to improve your strain. So you can imagine, even from the top 10%, you have 100 birds, that only leaves you 10. But all you really need is 1 cock and 1 hen from the standouts to move forward with. So the numbers do work. But when you're only hatching a dozen chicks, maybe 2 dozen tops, then the numbers aren't there. You're just not going to get the selection you need to improve your strain. It's not going to happen.
You could win the lottery and get lucky and get a stag and a hen that would mature into what you're looking for. But that's very far and few. I mean, I have done it and got some really good looking birds out of, you know, several birds, but in the beginning, but that's like winning the lottery when you're down that low, the chances.
When you have such low numbers, what happens a lot of times is you have some that have these traits that look really good. Then you have some over here that have these traits, but you don't really have 1 bird or 2 birds that have all the traits. You know, you're that's like, right. Frank says, like hitting the lottery. It's like, the chances of you getting the bird you need to really move forward. Let's say it does have everything you need. Let's say it overall, it's a pretty good bird. But if you would hatch more, you would have had more that were pretty good, but might have been just a little bit higher standard, which would have made all the difference. Okay. So Frank's right. I mean, in the beginning, it's about, we say it all the time, hatch as many as you can manage and afford. And I hope it's as much as possible so you have the proper selection. Once the strain is into the foundation stage and you're getting the uniformity and the consistency and the repeatability, and you're not getting a lot of surprises and culling is down to a minimum, then you could probably get away with not hatching as many. I'm still on the fence. I'm still on that thing where you still hatch as many as you can afford, though.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because even if you get the strain to where you want them, the more you put out on the ground, the better selection you got still yet. And, you know, maybe you find one that, this bird's got everything that I want. But then if you'd have hatched maybe another 20, you'd have got one that would have made that one, you know, look bad pretty much. So, yeah, the more you raise, I mean, it's just like, I say it all the time, it's like playing the lottery. The more chances you got, the better chance of winning. It's the same way when you're raising birds that way. The more you put on the ground, the better selection and you have, and a better chance of getting that bird. It's going to take your strain on to the next method.
Yeah, just don't overcrowd. Don't push it, because if you're raising a lot of birds and they don't have the proper space, and you know they're just making each other sick, you're not gonna achieve anything that way either. So that's why people always want me to give them numbers, and that's the best I could do. How many you can manage and how many you can afford.
That's another scenario when they start packing them in and getting overpopulated and you're getting too much. Mother Nature has this way to cull them down. If you're not culling, Mother Nature will do it for you, because I've seen a lot of breeders crowd their farms. I mean, to the point to where they was in milk crates and everything. And the next thing you know, some disease would break out and cull it for them. If you're overpopulating, you've got a greater chance of getting something in your birds that you don't want as well.
Yeah. Was he saying, Nancy? Steve?
He's saying, so how do you hatch more than 1 or 2 clutches of eggs if you only go for about 7 days before incubation and the hen only lays 10 to 12 eggs before going broody?
Okay, first of all, there's a number of ways. All
Sure.
her eggs can go right into an incubator. You can get foster hens to hatch whatever eggs and then have her hatch at the end. If you have one family, you don't have a whole bunch of families, and you have multiple hens, then each hen is going to contribute to the numbers. Okay, so if you have, let's say, 15, 20 brood hens, that's a lot of chicks. That's what, like 200 or more chicks that you're going to be able to select from. Now, chickens are going crazy out there. Talking about chickens. You hear that? I don't know what's going on out there.
I've
Yeah,
been
I
hearing
don't
them
see any
crow.
crows, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it must be something out there. So there's a number of ways to get your numbers up, and your more important hens, you're going to try to get more eggs from your more important hens, especially if you're dealing with a breeding program.
The point is, Steve, is not to let them get to the point to where they are broody. Take their eggs each day, and that way they won't ever go broody on you. But now you leave the eggs in with her, she'll go broody, and then she'll slack off maybe a week or so. Once you break her up, you won't get any eggs. But just keep taking the eggs out, like Kenny was talking about. Just keep removing the eggs. That way you got no chance of her going broody on you. And you can get, you're not going to get an egg every day, but you can get one at least every other day, range.
And pullets, I won't breed to a pullet, but I'll use them for foster hens.
Mm-hmm.
Take my chances with them, So
that's what I'm doing right now. I've got, rather than use my incubators, I had outside hens, pullets that's going broody. So me and Amanda's just been taking the eggs out away from them, mark them real good, so we know what it is. Put them in there, and I've got it where I can lock them up, keep feeding water in there. That way I don't have other hens coming in and taking a chance of, laying an egg when she was off. So I do keep them controlled that way to where nothing can get to the nest to lay in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the question I have is how many days can you store the eggs before you put them in the incubator or have the hen go broody and put them underneath her?
No more. I don't do no more than 15, but I set all mine at 10 days. I don't go over 10 days myself. That way I know I'm going to get, if they're fertile, I'm going to get a good hatch out of those eggs just by the age of them. But I wouldn't go over 15 days myself. How about you, Kenny?
Yeah, especially in this scenario where you want to keep all the eggs from one hen under another hen. Okay, you don't want to mix them up. So you want to try to get it, as soon as you get 10 or 12, get them under a hen.
Yeah.
Okay. And you should be fine. If you're storing them properly and you're turning the eggs as they're being stored, you shouldn't have a problem. I mean, there's hens that, wait 3 weeks before they start sitting. Okay. So it's all about how they're stored, I think, because the hen will go in there and before she lays the next egg, she goes in there and shakes them up pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
and you pretty much got to assimilate what the hen does. But you do want to keep the eggs together from any particular hen. You want to keep those eggs together so you know exactly who those chicks are.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let me ask you this. How do you store them? Like, say, Frank, because you have a lot more weather than we do here out in California. How do you store your eggs if you can't get them under a hen right away?
I've got a refrigerator and I keep it set on 57 degrees. One of those little mini refrigerators. I keep it setting on 50. And what I done, I went to Tractor Supply and they've got these cheap 20 count cheap incubator turners that you can buy separately. And I've got racks in there and I've got them set up on it. Now, this one, it turns them 6 times a day. And like Kenny was talking about, that is the life of your eggs. Do not store them upside down, pointing in down always, or on their side. Never turn the pointed end up because you kill your airhead. You never want to turn them point up. I see a lot of people doing that, turn them. And that's the wrong way to do it. When you turn them, it's side. And what I like to do is when I mark my eggs, if I'm not doing it without the turners I got just by hand, you make a mark on the egg. That way you know where it's turned each time. You don't get mixed up and let it lay there a couple of days on one side.
And where do you mark it on the egg? Top, side? I mean,
Doesn't
where
matter.
do you, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't
And what do you mark it with? A pencil or a pen or a Sharpie?
I never used a pencil because of the lead, which a lot of pencils, they don't use lead anymore. I've heard people say, "Oh, never use a Sharpie. It will ruin your eggs." Blah blah. I've never had a problem with a Sharpie ever.
Okay.
I don't think I'd use a permanent marker, one of those that's got the real high smell to them. But a Sharpie, that's all I've ever used. Really, in probably the past 20 years, been a Sharpie.
Yeah, it's funny. They used to, if you read some of the old, not the old books, but the newer modern chicken books,
Yeah.
they say either use a grease pen or a pencil.
Yeah.
I tried all that. It didn't matter. I was like, Frank, I used the Sharpie. I never had a problem with it. You know what I mean?
I never. They said the dye would go in through the shell and to the chick, the embryo, and I use a Sharpie. Very seldom will I get under a 95% hatch rate out of my eggs, and that's under a hen or in an incubator.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with it. So
Yeah, I don't think they even make grease pencils anymore. I haven't seen those things in years.
Kenny mentioned that I got some at a Hobby Lobby.
I think
in West
okay.
Virginia back several years ago, and that's the last ones I've ever come across.
Yeah. Okay, so practice good biosecurity. Keep a closed yard, Frank. A lot of people don't want to do that one.
Duh.
And I understand it too. I really do, because I used to be that person. You'd be out, you'd see this bird that you just had to have, and you get him, take him home. And then about 2 months, your chicken starts to, you get this disease on your yard that you never seen before. And then you start adding 2 + 2 and see what it's done. Now, it took me a long time to grasp what was causing it. And I was one of the very worst from it. I'd bring chickens back, other people's chickens from different farms, and they never got a chance to get resistance to the disease because I kept bringing birds in with different diseases that would infect the others. So it was just like a downhill run because I wasn't giving them a chance to even get used to the diseases that they had, rather than getting diseases, I was just bringing in there left and right. So it's easily done. I think every one of us has done it in the past, but it's so important for the health of your birds. So important.
Yeah, I mean, I get it too. It's like it's funner when you can share it, when you can bring people over, when you go to other people's farms. So I understand the angst, but it's like Frank said, it's especially once you have a family for a while, you've been working on them, you've got a lot of money and time in them. I mean, you get to the point when you start making progress, you really want to take that chance, so you have to really think about it. So I would limit visitors. I would limit new birds. Once you have a family, especially when you get into the founders program, you're into the foundation stage, you're not going to be adding new blood. I'm pretty sure, once you get them to a certain point, you're not going to be adding new blood. So it shouldn't even be an issue. Try to limit wild birds, wild animals, rats as much as possible. And, when you do bring in birds or you take birds off your farm, bring them back, then quarantine them. I have a 30-30-30 rule that I do, that they have to be, you put them by themselves for about 30 days, see if they start showing any disease. If they seem good, put a sacrificial bird with them for another 30 days and see if that bird either shows signs of disease or your bird gives them something. Okay. And then try to keep them, a good distance. I just say 30 feet away from the other chickens, and then feed them last every day and just make sure. And if you see nothing after that, then they should be fine.
That's something I had to break my dad with, is because he was constantly bringing birds home, new birds. And finally I got it through to him enough to where he's stuck with it now. He's not brought birds home in many, many years, but this is how I see it. There's disease on every yard. If you went in there and you check for pathogens, you're going to find disease on every yard. Every yard's got it. Every chicken yard is packing some sort of diseases. But if you keep a closed yard, like Kenny was talking about, they grow in numbers to the ones that's finally resistant to all those diseases, to where you get to where your birds are not sick anymore. But if you keep introducing different strains of disease, it could be the same disease, but a different strain of that disease back into your flock, it's just, you're never going to get nowhere. It's just it's a downhill battle, really.
We need to cover epigenetics again.
That's
that's
one that I can't wait to do because it's so important. It's so important.
Did we do a master's class video on epigenetics?
We discussed it a little bit, but we really didn't go through it. Like we remade the one discussion that we had in my kitchen, if you'll remember, but it wasn't nothing like it should have been, like the original was. But we did discuss it, but we wanted to redo it after that because there was so much we could add to it.
Yeah, I want to do that again then, if we haven't done it, and go into the genetic factors and how that all works. It's not just the environment; it's what's going on inside the bird too. And I don't want to go into it right now because it's a pretty good discussion. It's a pretty big one. But once you understand how epigenetics works, how the genetic factors work, how they're turning on and off genes depending on the environment and how it's stimulated, how some they work like knobs and some work like switches, and why some genes they're expressed in one area but not in another, where a breeder could have his birds for 30, 40, 50 years, never see a particular trait, put them on another yard in a different environment, and all of a sudden that trait's expressed. Okay. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Yeah, we need to cover that. That'd be a really good one to cover. The only problem is it's such good information. Chances are it end up being another master's class video.
It would definitely would be. Yeah, it would be for the front end. Yeah, it would be.
You want to know my biggest disappointment with biosecurity is that I can't have those little wild bird feeders all around my backyard where I can see them from, my kitchen window as I'm doing dishes or whatever. Or I can't put them in, the wild bird seed in the front yard so my cat can look out the window and talk to them, things like that. But I mean, because you have to have good biosecurity. You have to keep the wild birds as much as you can away from your yard as possible, because there's some really heavy diseases that those guys can carry.
Yeah, my external parasites, you name it, inside, outside. But I had one little robin that we saved. My pet snake got into the nest and killed two of his siblings, and it was only one left. And Amanda, being a soft heart she was, this made by the third one, and everybody's like, "Well, you're doing that. You're using a wild bird for a pet, and you with chickens." And I said, "Yeah, but you got to think about it. This bird was on my chicken yard, so the damage had already been done anyway, and now it's at the house. It's not even at the chicken yard. But it's almost virtually impossible to keep all of them out. But I tell you, I put up a flag." And the whip of that flag when the wind blows keeps a lot of them away. Now chickens had the chickens had a hard time with it when I first put it up, but the wild birds, I see less wild birds on my place, and just there'll be some there, and that wind will come up and that flag will start blowing. Man, they leave out. They're gone. They don't waste no time to leave. They don't. But now it took the chickens a long time to get used to that thing, though.
Probably making noise all the time.
Oh yeah, because every time it would crack and blow, they was like hunkered down, looking, seeing what it was going on. Yeah.
It's the same thing with mowing the lawn. And I know we might be getting off topic a little bit here, but when I would first mow the lawn, not real close to the chicken pens, but kind of around them, they would like freak out and stuff. And then after they realized that I was kicking grass into their pens, they got all excited when that lawnmower was going and me mowing by those pens, because they knew they were going to get some fresh grass out of it. So yeah, they're so smart. They learn, they get with the program pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Amanda, as soon as she walks in the fenced in area, the hens I've got running out in there, and some of them's older hens, they recognize her and they go to one spot on top of a pen or wherever she normally feeds them. She doesn't have to get them there. They're there waiting on her by the cup. They're running free. So each one of them knows where she's going to feed them at. So they're very intelligent birds. I mean, scientists has done work with them and teach them to do tricks just like a dog. So they've got a very, very high IQ when it comes. And most of that is survival and reproductive, but they do have they can be trained to do almost anything, really.
Yep. Okay. Keeping your strain healthy, crucial for keeping a well. How do I want to say this? Okay, well, it's crucial for their well-being and reproduction. So if you can't keep them healthy, you're not going to be able to create the strain, maintain the strain, or even improve the strain. Frank, prevention, that's where you got to start.
That's 100% true too, Kenny, because at one time we had, oh gosh, the rain a few years here. It was awful. And there was this big, huge field. You know, the big field that I showed you on the left side of where I've got my chickens on the hill there? That would hold water. If we had one big rain shower, that thing would hold water in that field for weeks. And I kept having problems with pox. I was cleaning the water up, standing water, and the creek that's there beside of me, it constantly runs. So no mosquitoes are going to be able to hatch larvae in it because it's a running stream. Well, we walked out in that field and I seen what my problem was. So we started spraying that field. And what I was doing at that time, I was having a huge problem with pox. And I would vaccinate my parent stock, my brood fowl. So the chicks would be vaccinated through the eggs. And that would work up about 4 or 5 years. And then I'd start seeing a couple more doing it. But once I started spraying that field and doing my part as far as husbandry, I have it vaccinated in over 12 years now. And used to, I have to do that. Just shows you how far you can get by just making sure things are done the way they're supposed to be. And now I don't have to rely on that vaccine. Now, I did have 2 or 3 young stags have dry pox. I think it was last year. But in a week's time, you couldn't even tell anything was wrong with them. I mean, they just went on about their merry way and didn't have any problem with it. But I think a lot of that, a lot of things people vaccinate for could be taken care of before they had to resort to that. I really do.
Yeah. Well, we're back to biosecurity and keeping people off your yard and staying off other people's yards and bringing in new birds and all that. I haven't vaccinated or medicated since Tony threw everything in the trash can, and I took a hit for a little while, but then, they got better. And we're going to be teaching that pretty soon in the master's class video and building up resistance to disease and keeping your fowl healthy by improving the disease resistance. But one of the things I encourage people to do is to handle and check your birds often. Pick them up, try to pick them up at least once a month if possible. So I try to pick up a certain amount of birds every day. So I'm looking them over for parasites. I'm checking their weight to see if they either lost weight or gained weight, or see if they're too heavy or too light. Looking for defects while I have them in the hand, any disease that might pop up. And I'm culling things as I run into them. Okay. But being able to check your birds often, keeping an eye on things is so important, because things can, they can go awry pretty quickly, or you could spend a little time not checking a bird and all of a sudden you pick them up a month later or more, and all of a sudden the bird isn't what you thought it was, or all of a sudden it's sick and you didn't notice it, or it lost a lot of weight, that kind of thing. Those kind of things sneak up on you
fast. And that is, JS, that is an awesome question. That's an awesome question.
Yeah, I've never thought about this before, but Kenny, what do you think about this? Would it be a good idea to burn the feed bags right away when you get home and dump the feed in plastic containers to try to minimize any cross-contamination?
Well, I pour all my feed into metal trash cans as soon as I get them. Okay, I only buy enough feed that the metal cans can handle. And then as I empty them, I put them outside my shed. And then I get new feed, put them back in the shed, fill them up, and then I mix my feed every day. I don't burn the bags, but I do throw them in the trash can. So
I do the same thing. My bags never go around my chickens. I get them. I've got one place where I do my feed. I take the bags, we roll them up, throw them in the trash, get rid of them, but they never go on my farm ever. I put them. You guys have seen the videos, the cat totes. The cat litter totes that I use, they go back and forth. They go to that farm, to my feed house, and the bags are never even in the same room with them. So that's the same thing I was going to mention too on the egg cartons. Remember the discussion with Dr. Gallardo, guys? He said not to use those store-bought containers because of disease. Yeah. So I'll be the first to admit I used to use them until he put that ideal in my head.
Yeah,
and I quit using them. I do not use them anymore.
Vertical diseases like bronchitis, You could be bringing that home with you and not even know it. It's not going to affect us, but when you put the eggs on them and you store them that way, then they could be an issue. You're right. Susie told me that. I stopped storing all those things. Now I saw D somewhere. I was going to bring it up. He was talking about, and I like that idea, and I used to do that myself, is putting the eggs in the carton and just turn the carton every day, numerous times a day. That's the way I would do it too. But if I were him, I wouldn't use the carton from the store like we were talking about. Buy some plastic things that you can wash, plastic egg trays, and then turn those. And then when you're done, wash them. That's what I would do.
Right.
Back when I was using those, I would use, I had a thing like a closet rod, the wooden rods, and I had a flat bottom on it. And what I would do each day, I would put one of those under one end of the carton, and then I would take it out and put it on the other end of the carton that way. But I never would flip them.
What do you mean flip them?
Flip the eggs upside down.
No,
Yeah.
never like that. Just tilt them 45
Yeah.
degrees both ways.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that cork underneath it would elevate it just enough. It would turn them, and then I'd place it on the other side. But I used those things religiously until Dr. Lardo brought it up. I would not use those because they're not sanitized. The eggs, they could still have diseases on them. And I was like, they're gone.
That was a big revelation for me when he told me that. I was like, whoa, so I started throwing but I saved all kinds of those. And I used to ship my eggs in those cartons. I used to wrap each egg in like toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Put them in the egg carton. And then I would wrap the egg carton with tin foil, and then I'd bubble wrap the carton, and then I'd place it in the box, and then I'd put bubble wrap around that, and never had a broken egg. And they always had a pretty good hatch rate too. But
we always done bubble wrap. Put them in bubble wrap and just tape them up.
Oh, did you?
Put them in the box.
Yeah, I didn't do that. But
and then you started buying your own egg cartons, so that was okay.
Yeah,
after a while, you did that.
Yeah, I still have some out there. Matter of fact,
they're cheap.
Yeah, they're not that expensive.
You can buy them on Amazon or eBay, any of those places right there, and get like a dozen for like $1.50, $1.75, something like that. They're not very expensive.
I saw them at Tractor Supply. They'd sell egg cartons, but I would buy a big box. The box would be like, 2 feet tall, and just filled with those things. So I still have boxes in the shed. I just don't sell many eggs anymore.
I think everybody uses those store-bought egg cartons, and I'd used them for 30 years. But when he said that, it was just like a light bulb went off the top of my head. I was like, "Oh, I'm done with that."
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this: if you're in a bind and that's all you have is a store-bought egg carton, what if you lined it with tin foil? Would that keep it?
No,
clean?
I wouldn't even take the chance, Nancy.
Okay.
No.
So don't do it at all. Okay.
No, because vertical diseases like bronchitis and MG, once you get that on your yard, you ain't going to get that off, or it's going to be tough to get it off. Okay.
And if you're going to get it, it's going to be from one of those houses you're going to get it at, usually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them take very good care, just as much as we do with theirs, but some of them is a little bit less careless, and that's what gets you in trouble.
Now, this is an interesting comment. Jason is saying, be careful with commercial compost. It may have various types of manure as part of the mixture. So like if you're, you've got a garden and you need compost for your garden and your chickens are able to get into that garden, so that's something to think about there.
Okay. We're almost at the end. Frank, nutrition. Really important for keeping healthy fowl.
That would go back on the epigenetics. That's one part of that stool. And a lot of people has it in their head. They misconstrue nutrition, Kenny. They think they can take a bird that has all the wrong proportions. He's everything that we breed away from. And they think they can give him a good nutritional diet, and he's just going to grow into the right type conformation, a big, beautiful full tail, and it's going to make everything right. But it doesn't. You have to have the genetics. Nutrition can only expose the traits we breed for to its full potential if we've got the best nutrition possible. But
Right.
they still have to have the genetics. I know you've seen it a million times. People screaming and hollering that they could take a bunch of what we call dung hills and feed them the right type feed and the right nutrition and make superstars out of them. And that's not true.
No, I mean the three-legged stool we talk about is a perfect analogy of what what you should be doing. It's the environment, okay? It's your farm management and the environment they live in. It's the nutrition and the diseases that are in your area. These all play a role. And then it's in the genetics and the genes that they pass from offspring to offspring, from generation to generation. They all play a role in how you manage them, how you feed them, take care of them, how you manage diseases, how you select them, how you the birds you select from generation to generation, whether you're selecting for proper or good health, birds that can live in their environment, birds that have the right traits, all that, it all plays a role in nutritions. We want to say it's one leg, but it's only in part of one leg when you think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is. But without good nutrition, it makes selection that much harder, because if the birds are not showing their true potential, then we might be skipping over birds that we would have normally selected to breed back. And once again, you mentioned it: good nutrition, good health. If you take the strongest of birds, if it doesn't have the correct nutrition, it's going to have health problems in some way, or deficiencies, so to speak. So the better we feed our birds, the better their nutrition is, the better chances of getting those standouts that we always praise to further our strain to go forward with it.
The one thing I'd say, the biggest thing about nutrition for me is making sure they have a complete feed. Now, I see so many people that they only feed gamecock feeds. Well, that's not a nutritious diet. Okay. That has some things that they need, but it's not complete. Okay. And so if you look at like the Maximus mix on the website, I would say 60% of it is pellet. And I prefer the all flock pellet because I think it's one of the best pellets on the market. It's the closest to organic that you're going to get, very natural. You just can't store a lot of it, and then use some of the grains to enhance maybe some of it, or to help with a little bit. I don't think a lot of grains are important, but I do think they need to be some. I think some people overdo it with wheat. I think oats are bad. I'm just not an oat person. I see more problems with oats than it's worth. I talked to a number of nutritionists, and they all told me the same thing. And one told me it for a while till he saw everybody else using it, and he changed his game. But they told me oats are for horses. Keep them away from chickens. They're high fiber, low protein. He says there's not much in oats that benefit from the chicken. You get the fiber from other things. So I've never used oats. I don't soak them. I don't use them. I don't think they're needed in the chicken feed. But just making sure you have a complete feed. I think that's the most important part.
Well, the pellet is where people get misconstrued. Now, if I use 60% pellets in my mix, like Kenny does his, and his is 20%, yours is 20%, right, Kenny? 20% off block. If I used 60%, I'd burn mine up. I mean, they would be so fat and so much protein. I only use like 14 pound in 50, but mine's a 36% mineral pellet. So I don't have to use as much as Kenny would do. So it really depends on your pellet and how much ratio that you use to keep it down. And Mark's 100% right. Everyone prays to the protein gods and gamefowl, and they think as long as it's got a high protein, it's the greatest feed ever was, which in reality, that's further from the truth. Your lysine, your methionine, your threonine. There's so much of your trace minerals and your fatty acids that play a role in that. There's much more to feed than just protein. Mark's on the money on that.
I do try to aim for about an 18% protein.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I do 18 and a half. Now, in the summertime, I will lower it down. When it's getting close to the moat, I will lower it down to about 16% because it's really hot here. But it really depends on what your area is, your climate, your environment, where you live at. that plays so much bigger role as far as what you need to feed your chickens and what percentage of protein or the mix during the winter compared to the spring and summer and so forth.
If you pick up your chickens all the time, you're checking them out and observing them, it's going to tell you a lot about what their diet should be like. So if you're picking them up and they're too light, you need to change the diet. If they're too heavy, you need to change the diet. If they're active and healthy, then you're probably right where you need to be. If you're noticing a strong odor or a lot of urates in the droppings, then you got to adjust the feed. So you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to your birds and their environment, their droppings, the whole bit, so that you can make the proper adjustments. Will you need to adjust it in different seasons? Sometimes, I'll adjust it a little bit in the summer. I'll up the protein just a little bit, drop the carbohydrates, get them into the winter, raise some of the carbohydrates so that they have a little bit more to keep them warm in the winter. The last thing I do, which I've heard, is drop the protein during the molt. I think that's the worst thing you could do.
I'm not, it may have its benefits in the domestic chicken world, but I'm not, because here's how I look at it. Once you take the breast off of a game bird, he's never going to get all that back to 100%. He'll get it back, but he'll never get it all back. It can't be replaced. And I'm just not up for that. That's a no-no to me when it comes to my birds. I will never, ever do that. Force molts, my birds molt when they want to molt. And I leave it up to Mother Nature to take care of that for them.
Yeah. The only thing I want to talk about, because I get this question a lot, is what do I think about supplements? And my thing about supplements is if you have a complete feed, you got the feed where you need it, and you've done a good job balancing the feed, you don't need supplements. Supplements are for, this is my opinion, supplements are for when you have a feed that's deficient. And if it's deficient, use the supplements until you get the feed right and then stop the supplements. I just don't think supplements should be everyday thing. It's used for a particular reason, for a particular length of time, and then you stop it. Okay? So that's how I feel about it.
I see a lot of people harm their birds, the kidneys, their organs, burn the feathers out of them. If you are going to use it, and they say use a pound in your mix, go with about a quarter of a pound. At least half of it. Don't use the recommended dose. And don't use it on all your chickens. Try it on one chicken, 2 chickens. See how it reacts with them before you use it on the rest of your birds. Because I promise you, when I started this feed thing, doing different types of feeds, I was doing it on just a couple of chickens, just seeing how it would do. And I'm so glad I did, because some of them, I messed them completely. I'm not going to lie. I messed them completely up trying to get the, all the minerals, trace minerals and everything right. So it's something you have to do and tweak at very small intervals, no big jumps, and don't try it on your whole flock. Just use some tests, take the worst birds that you've got, test it on them, see how it does. If it does all right, then put it in the rest of your flock.
I think if the feed is where it should be, and you think you're going to add supplement to enhance the feed from there, I think you're going down the wrong road. Okay. So I think maybe you have a winter feed. Okay. Maybe you have a summer feed. Maybe you have a breeding feed. That's fine. And then you switch them over gradually every time you got to do that, but they shouldn't be so far apart that you're feeding them a whole complete different feed every time you do it. It should be close. The feed should be close with some small adjustments, but I just don't think supplements for the most part is the way to go.
Well, I think a lot of it too, Kenny, people misconstrue the power of a feed cup, even if it's your hand. If all your birds is pretty much good weight and you come up on a bird and he's a little bit under what he should be, increase his feed. If he's a little bit too fat or she's a little bit too fat, take some of the feed back. That's the reason you need to go around. I go around once a week and I'll pick them up, fill them over, see if I need to decrease the feed, improve the feed. And that's one thing. When Amanda first started feeding the chickens, helped me with the chickens, that's one thing I had to learn her, basically, was fill the chickens once a week, and they'll let you know. They'll tell you if you need to up the feed or lower the feed. So what's good for one strain, just like with Kenny's chickens, what good for amount for one strain won't be enough or maybe too much for another.
Yeah. Okay. We are a breeding show. So we're going to get in. The last part's going to be about breeding towards good health.
Okay, can I say something before you go on to another subject? Because I've been trying to.
Wait. Are you part of the show? Yeah.
I don't think so today.
You know why? Because I'm trying to go really fast because I know. Here, I just want to say this. I knew the show was going to be promotional heavy in the beginning because there's so much I wanted to announce. So I am giving them a little more than I normally would for the actual content, but I am rushing through it because we want to get to the back end. So go.
Seriously? Okay. So
okay, too late.
No, shut up.
Okay.
I want to ask a couple questions here. Can too much protein damage the kidneys?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. That didn't get answered. That was on the
it can harm the liver, it can harm the kidneys, and if your birds is drinking, they should drink twice the water as feed. So if they're drinking more water than that, then you know something's wrong. If you go out and you've got gallon water things in a day and a half, that's completely gone. Then you better be checking your protein. But I see that there's some people that admit to feeding up to 36% protein to their birds every day, all through the year. And I don't know, because you feed too much protein, it will even dry the feathers up. The feathers will curl right up on their back, just like sun damage. Have you ever seen that before, Kenny?
Yeah.
For too much protein?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we call burning the feathers out of them. It will literally dry the feathers out, and the feathers will just curl up. If a bird's in the sun for a long period of time, it will do the same thing. And too much protein will do the same thing. Just make the feathers fall right out because it'll go moat.
There's signs to it, though. It's not a surprise. I mean, just got to understand the signs. I mean, Frank just listed a few of them there. Okay. Like I said earlier, if you walk into your pen and it's got that strong ammonia odor, that's a good sign of the protein being too high. You see the droppings are really heavy in white urates. That's another sign. If they're lifting their legs, doing the high stepping thing, that's another sign. You'll see it. You know, the birds will tell you what you need to know about the adjustments you need to make to the feed. And those are protein's a big one. So
a lot of it, you can watch the feathers, and I can usually just walk to somebody's house. I can look at the plumage, how healthy the plumage is, and I can give you an idea of what that bird feels like in flesh. You can see the health usually in the feathers itself. If the feathers are in good shape, usually the body's where it needs to be. But if you see dry feathers, the feathers look real bad, usually the body's not going to feel good as well.
Would you say that the same thing for the Komen wattles if they still have their Komen wattles?
Yeah.
Would that be a good base? Okay.
That's a very good base because you want it, you want them red, nice strawberry red heads, puffy under the eyes, a nice bright clear eye. There's a lot of things that you can just observe and look at. And like Kenny mentioned a while ago, a lot of times your birds will signal to what they need or don't need.
Now, JS is talking about using cow manure for chickens. I myself don't like it. I like the drier horse manure. Yeah, it's I don't think cows and chickens mix real well. I've
tried it. We've got cattle, and I've tried it. Put a tarp over it and kind of let it dry out, and try to take a shovel and chop it up. But now, I mentioned a while ago about the horse manure getting wet. Times that about 10 with cow manure, okay? And the smell, we don't even want to go there. So stick with the horse manure. The cow manure, I would not advise. No. I'm like Kenny on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Okay.
Keep it for your compost pile, for your gardens.
That's what we do.
So let's talk a little bit about the breeding towards keeping healthy fowl. Tawny, I don't know why I said her name. I'm with Tawny too much. I'll call Nancy Tawny all the time too. I don't. Anyway,
what does that say about me?
I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about her, and that just came right out. So watch. I say her name 3 times, she's going to come through the door.
Oh Lord.
Selecting breeders that are healthy. That's a big one, Frank. Is selecting the healthy birds, culling the sick. And only breeding to the healthy birds. That goes a long way.
And I'm not going to say what it is. I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off right now. But we was back on the members side show last week, and I was talking about breeding sick to sick. And man, you come up with the best scenario on that ever was about sick, non-sick. Remember what I was talking about
No.
without saying it?
Uh-uh.
I'll remind you when we get over on the other side. I mean, I'd always thought that way before. And can you get out from underneath breeding sick chickens, starting with sick chickens?
Getting behind on genetics, was that getting behind on genetics? Was that it?
Well, I can't say. I'll tell you over on the other side.
Okay.
I really can't say. I've been giving out too much. But when you breed sick to sick, you're magnifying. The closer you breed, you're magnifying that trait. And we always say it. What's the worst trait not to breed for? And that's sickness. So, and a lot of people doesn't look at it that way. They're like, oh, these are sick, but the offspring won't be sick. They think it's just going to go away on its own, but we know it doesn't.
Yeah, you either breed the sick bird. Now, there's a way to get around it. Maybe this is what Frank's being careful, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it a little bit. Is if you have a sick bird, it's the only bird you have. You got to do what you got to do. But like Frank said, the last thing you want to do is breed that sick bird to another sick bird. Okay, so you breed that bird to a bird that's healthy. And then you keep selecting the offspring after that are healthy, getting rid of the sick. That's how you breed a family that's resistant to disease, has the right immunity to the diseases in their environment. We say it all the time. You can't become immune or resistant to a disease you've never been exposed to. Yep. Okay. So anytime you bring a new disease, you need to work your way through it. And it's breeding to the healthy birds, getting rid of the sick birds is going to get you there. If you keep breeding to the sick birds, you're just going in the wrong direction. We're always looking to breed in a certain direction, and that's towards improvement. When you breed in the wrong direction, you're not going to work your way through anything. You're just going to keep making them worse and worse. Was that what you were going to say and not say?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, that was it. But,
cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah. I was just being careful. I was going to add one more thing to that, but that was it pretty much in a nutshell.
Talk about the Founders Program. We're good.
Yeah. That was the other part with it that was in the Founders Program. But that's the problem. That's the reason we always tell people when they're starting out, they're going to start their own string, is to make sure of all costs that those birds are healthy, because a lot of things we can work past, Kenny, just like with the Founders Program you mentioned a while ago. There's always that trick to get around certain scenarios. And a lot of the breeding we can get around, but sickness, we can get around it, but who wants to put that much time in them and spend that much emphasis in them to say that they won't even make it? You won't even make it that far with sick birds.
Well, the biggest thing too is even when you have sick birds, and I know when you first get birds and they're sick, and a lot of these big name breeders, a lot of these popular breeders, they rely on medication so much that you almost can't get away from it when you're starting out. You almost have to medicate them the way they're medicating them just to keep them alive till you get offspring and work through it. So, but medications, if you just keep using medications forever, you're just hiding the sickness. You're hiding the weakness. You're hiding the fault. Okay. You're never getting around it. You will not know how good your birds are or how healthy they are until you get away from the medications. Then you're going to find out what you really have. Okay. So yeah, I'm not a big, to me, that's not breeding. You're breeding towards a high quality bird. You're breeding towards good traits. This is all genetics, by the way. You're breeding towards good health. But if you're using things to hide those weaknesses and you're not exposing them and selecting accordingly, you're never improving them. So that's the way I feel about it.
Well, a lot of people think if they're, say, Marek's or pox or what have you, they say, oh, well, I vaccinate for that. My chickens are not sick with that anymore. You're fine to take my chickens home. I haven't seen pox or Marek's here in years. But little did they know, just because that bird's vaccinated, it's not showing any symptoms of that disease. It can still shed that bacteria and infect non-infected birds that's never been exposed to it before. And a lot of people have no idea about that. And they think it's okay to sell them to other people when they are vaccinating for something. Now, we've got vaccines out there right now that is a non-virus vaccine that just makes antibodies better in the chicken's body. Now, I think that's the best route to go by if you're going to have the vaccine. But using live virus vaccines, there's a little bit more to it than your chicken not being sick. Just like when I was vaccinating for pox. If somebody had took one of my birds home, it could have infected their birds with pox. So you just got to think. A lot of it's common sense. Some of it isn't, but a lot of it you get by just by thinking the obvious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mark has a really good idea here. Let's see what he has to say. That's what you do with sick birds. I agree with you, Mark. Well said. Okay, moving on.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. We're going to go into the back end for our members. So if you want to join us today, just join the Breeders' Academy. Go to www.breedersacademy.com. There you're going to get the round table, the members round table, and you're going to be able to watch the entire show. You'll also be able to watch the Masters Class video series, have access to the Founders Program, all the programs and courses to support the Founders Program, all the daily articles, and a whole bunch more. Okay. Also, make sure you join our newsletter. Go to www.breedersacademy.com. There you're going to get free tips on breeding, free articles on breeding, free ebooks on breeding, and lost my place. My mouse fell out of my hand. Okay.
Serves you right.
I thought he said his mouth fell out of his hand there for a minute.
The mouth fell out of my hand, and then all of a sudden I grabbed it, and it was upside down, and everything was going all over the place. So
let's see if you do a better job than I do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Okay. So we went way longer than we should have.
Hopefully we did.
Are still awake to enjoy the back end for the members roundtable. Frank, thank you for joining me. Nancy, thanks you for joining me. We'll see you guys later. Members, meet us in the back end. See ya.
Bye.
See you guys.
This show is brought to you by.
Sorry, I messed it up.
Take two.
Yeah, here we go. This is it. I'm sure of it this time.